today.
She was just a commissioner, first woman commissioner, but you have been
Very
the
well.
only
My husband does
female
the same thing.
mayor
Today.
today.
One night now.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Well, we discussed it during,
We're not gonna do it right here.
no, but we discussed it during our sessions that led up to this. And you were just a choice. That was chosen.
No, I'm talking about,
But the-
I'm talking about us.
Oh, oh, yeah. I mean, because that's, I mean, you've still been part of the growth of the community.
As a matter of fact, I printed some out and I walked out of my office without bringing them, but I'll give you mine. How's that?
Okay, that's fine. I appreciate it.
You are quite welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's a short one.
Okay.
yeah. Yes, and not only that, I think there's a new endeavor that we need to pick up. If we can have a brief discussion on it when we get to,
Let's see what it is.
new business, or actually it's, warning signage that needs to go up in a place of contamination.
Oh,
Is something like that possible, Mark?
I know, I know.
Where you been?
Hello, everybody.
So last month I was on vacation. And I don't know what.
Mark, did you get my email? Yeah, request?
Yes, and I'm still trying to dig that out, but I'm going to address that for you here today.
Okay.
Mr. Edwards, how are you? Good. Need a packet? All right, there you go.
It was on the website, you know, like, yeah, they posted all the openings and it's not there. But you know, like, you can go here and see city openings.
Just a
I will
regular
do
type.
that tomorrow. Because I didn't because,
Hello, yes, how you doing? Yeah, right there. It's right there. There you go. Yeah, everybody's fine. Oh, okay, so we can talk about it right here.
Okay.
When we get to it, under old business.
Well, we're gonna see. Tell us that. Is this yours you gonna give to me? Oh, thank you so much, because you know I don't got no money.
What is,
This paper that she's taking, it's the same thing you were talking about.
one that I, let's see.
Okay, everybody.
Can you do a walkthrough? We got a quorum now.
Yeah, we got one. You're gonna have to leave early, you know.
Oh, my, yes.
Oh, that's right, the mic though. That's it, you right.
Oh, okay, yeah, if you wanna save this for your scrapbook.
Miss Kanai.
Yes, darling.
How you doing, dear? You on wheels?
On wheels.
Yes, she's on wheels.
Yes, that's not a bike either.
Oh,
You wanna save this for your scrapbook?
okay.
Didn't you do a walkthrough with us?
I know.
Oh, we was on the first section, but they've got, ooh,
Okay.
quite ways now. But yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Mark, you ready?
Ready?
The Brownfield Redevelopment Authority will now come to order August the 25th, 2022 at 4:05 p.m. Call to order, roll call, Mark.
Kennard,
Present.
Adams,
Present.
Clark,
Here.
Here.
Hudson, Childs,
Present.
Warren,
President.
Edwards.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a review of minutes for July the 28th, 2022. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Support.
The motion and second. Are there any discussions on the motion, questions, concerns about the minutes? Hearing none, roll call.
Kennard,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Communications, Mark.
Madam Chair, I've received notification from the city clerk this week regarding the pending appointment of a new member, which will be your 9th member, so you'll be a full board. Recall, you have the ability to have between 7 and 9 members. So Michael Davis Yates had made application, and his application has been passed along by the mayor to, I believe, the legislative committee, if I'm not mistaken. And reappointments of Mr. Childs, Ms. Kennard, Chairperson Hall, and the legislative committee will be reviewing the recommendation of the mayor and these reappointments at its September 7th meeting. And those of you whose appointments are up for renewal are welcome to attend. That's all I have.
Yes, Mr. Clark, what was his name? Was he?
Mr. Clark was already approved.
Oh, he was? Okay, thank you. All right.
I got a question. So before I came, what my name on the agenda pending the month before I came back in
Yes.
March, April.
No, it wasn't. And it wasn't because I wasn't given any advance notice. I was simply told that you had been appointed and you were a new member.
Yeah, that's what we were concerned about.
In this particular instance, they gave us a heads up that they have a new member pending, that you have a new member pending.
Okay,
Uh,
anything? Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Number 2?
Next item, Madam Chair, annual MEDC reporting. Recall each year about this time, by the end of August, all Brownfield redevelopment authorities across the state are obligated under law to report all of your tax increment revenue collection, capture that you've done throughout the year, how those captures were dispersed, exactly what happened to those monies. And those are all submitted electronically to MEDC. I completed that work last week and actually made a couple of edits on a report at the request of MEDC this week. So everything is in, and it's in on time. I'm just going to give you a heads up. Caution, however, that is a tremendous amount of work each year. And as a result, it'll be reflected on next month's billing statement. So don't be shocked.
But is it not a part of what you do, or is it supposed to be something that Plant Moran that we pay every month?
No, it's, Madam Chair, Ms. Adams, that is something that I do each year for you.
So we paid you in times past through the chair, and so it
Yep.
was reflected on those past payments too.
That is correct.
This is the first time I've
It's all part of your budget.
heard, okay. As long as it's budgeted in, it shouldn't be a problem. I
That's
mean, it's
correct.
something that's a must. I know a
Absolutely.
lot of organizations have reports to do on a yearly basis, so
Mhm.
yes.
Any other concerns, questions?
Just don't hurt us.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right,
I'd like to be more familiar with the process itself. So.
Okay.
Going through there, give me a call, you're at your office.
I'd be, Madam Chair,
I see a lot of numbers.
that'd be great.
I
Mhm.
know there are some variables getting there. That's the only question I have.
Is the report in here?
no, it's
It
all
will be next
electronic.
month.
No, it's all done electronically. It's
Oh,
all,
we won't get a copy?
no, it's all done online. What you will get is what I have already received is I've received from MEDC confirmation that these reports have all been submitted. Every one of your sites has a report. They've all been submitted. And what MEDC will be doing now probably over the next couple of months, will be reviewing those reports. And they will either send me confirmation that they've been approved, or they'll send me confirmation that some correction needs to be made.
I'm glad we're discussing this, Madam Chair, because As we rebuild our website and have a new contract with a person that's website design and everything, I think that it would be nice if the Brownfield had a page with all of that, all of our documentation on it. I mean, would I be able to view those into the state's site and wanted to review those reports?
It's,
Because they should be available for us to view if we
Yeah.
want.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure whether you can review those reports online. I have, as your administrator, I have an access code that I have to use to get in. I'm not sure if the general public can view those reports, but I'll check.
Okay, or members. I guess my question would be, is that something, a report that they have to approve, that they may ask before their approval, something else of you, or if something seems out of order that they may have questions about? Is that a possibility?
Absolutely.
Okay, so upon final approval of report, say several months up the street, that something like that would be available for us to view on a site. If we can discuss that, that would be nice.
I really like what Mr. Hudson said, that he would get with him, and then I know he said
Yes.
discrepancies. He's gonna let the board
Yes,
know.
but Madam Chair, what I'm saying is for future board members
I see.
coming on, they have an opportunity to see what the Brownfield is all about and how things function and what has gone on. I mean, it's just transparency and we're showing, our accountability to the community.
Madam Chair, I'll find out
Yes.
Okay,
before the next meeting
Yes.
whether
Yeah.
the public can get general access to view
Thank you.
those reports.
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, we have today's technology. We can
All right,
utilize. Ain't that right?
anything else, Mark?
No, ma'am.
All right, this portion is open for public comments. If you have any comments, step to the podium. And I'll give you your name and address and make your comments.
You applied for a seat? I'm sorry. I thought that this was the young man that Mark mentioned. I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Hi, good afternoon. Before I started, I wanted to share some flowers with you just so you knew what I was digging into here.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to give you a quick update on what we've been up to so far. The redevelopment proposal for 275 Pipestone. Since we last met, I've had met with a few building professionals to determine what the needs of the building are, structural assessments, bringing it up to compliance in terms of actual municipal code, building code, etc. And our approximate cost so far is around $4 million or so. So armed with that information and the line items that we need to pursue to bring the facility back into shape, our plan is to move forward with the formal process within the next couple of weeks, starting with the environmental assessment to determine what contaminated materials are present in the building. That's pretty much it.
Are there any questions?
I don't know, have you had an opportunity to get?
I have had a chance to
Yeah,
speak
that's
with
what I
Mark.
was gonna ask.
Oh, okay.
I have had a chance to speak with Mark.
You have?
Mark has actually been quite
Okay.
helpful following up with emails. So
Thank you so much.
I appreciate the help and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I got a question.
Okay.
Reference to, was it 4 million, was that the value, the?
Oh, no. So
the
there's
Building,
no,
the
so
cost of bringing them up to code.
costs will bring it up to code, bring it up to ADA compliance, updating the building facilities, the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, HVAC systems, actually creating the space that we'd like to have. And that's just an estimate. I mean, just right now, this thing.
Could you prioritize the work that needs to be done? What's the first, most important work that needs to be done?
The most important thing to be done right now is to assess the structural elements themselves. Right now, we have identified 2, possibly 3 areas of concern to address right away. This includes compromised sections in the basement and one in the main auditorium or church hall area.
So it's already been looked at by an engineer?
So we have done informal walkthroughs, but to actually do the formal process, that is when we bring on professionals with the understanding that you'll be providing a report that we could depend on. Mhm.
No question.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you. In
Afternoon.
this project, I mean, in the building, who's the actual owner?
The actual owner.
Yes.
So I'm following up with Reverend Pinckney to pursue development of the actual complex.
So you're running the program or you're just updating the building and he has somebody to run the program?
So I would act as the construction manager to facilitate the redevelopment of the complex. So essentially, I would work with Reverend Pinckney and the group responsible for the building to actually facilitate construction and implement some sort of plan for continued operations and maintenance.
Cool.
Madam Chair, I'd like to do a follow-up on that question. I believe it was that, who was the present owner of the building?
No, I know, the president not yet, as of today.
Yeah, who is the owner of the building?
I would have to follow up with Reverend Pinckney on that, and we haven't gotten that far. So far, my role has just been to,
No, you don't know who the present owner, who owns it, who owns the deeds of the building.
that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure of the exact details on that. That would have to get back to you on. I'm more than happy to follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Ed?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
This is for you.
Thank you.
I wanted to just take the opportunity this afternoon, just before this meeting, I was meeting with Ms. Beth Rigsby, who is associated with the US EPA through Kansas State University, and is here assisting us with our outreach and citizen participation related to Ox Creek. And I'd like to, I'd like to have her introduce herself to you and tell you a little bit about their role and what they do with Brownfields.
acceptable. Okay.
That name sounds so familiar.
I'll just leave some cards here if anyone wants it.
Probably been on some Zooms.
Pardon me?
Probably been on some Zooms together.
I'm with Kansas State University, but I work out of Indiana, and I've worked in the Midwest here for 20 years. But my role is Kansas State has a cooperative agreement with the EPA. And what my role is to provide free technical assistance to communities, and I've worked in the Region 5 states, which are 6 states in the Midwest.
Free?
Yeah, free. We are free.
Wow.
The EPA pays us, but Kansas State has been very active in this program since 2000. I've been working on behalf of the TAB program since 2002. And so we do lots of different things. I work closely with the state, with Eagle, with Carrie Dyer. And I am doing some visioning for Ox Creek along with the University of Michigan. But I may be stepping out into doing more of a citywide inventory of the brownfields here in Benton Harbor. And then eventually we'll be prioritizing those sites and hopefully selecting sites for the state to address. So with the brownfields have to be eligible. They're not typically residential properties unless you're talking about multifamily, okay? It could be, like apartment complexes, those kind of things. brownfields are everything. They're main streets, they're gas stations, they're industrial sites, they're all sorts of properties. So what I was hoping is that you would be advisors to me on, yes, on brownfields in the city. And so I'll be working, we're actually bringing in a consultant to work with me to do the inventory. It's one of our partners. And they'll be working to develop something that then we prioritize and we look at the sites that have the most maybe redevelopment value or quality of life value or the priorities that the city and everyone chooses to have. And those could be things like we have a revitalization area and we have TIF districts. So maybe the sites in the TIF district might be a little bit easier or better for a developer to develop because of the opportunities there. But I'm also thinking in terms of the retail issues and restaurants and all the different things that we need to build up and revitalize the city. And I think I just leave it open to questions.
If I could just make one comment. While that work that we're referring to there would start sort of as an offshoot of what we're doing with Ox Creek and our pursuit of grants and so forth, it's not going to be completely outside of this body. We're to tie it back to you all and work through Mark and you to utilize as much as possible our local Brownfield Authority in doing things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's why I was hoping I won't be a stranger to these meetings. I won't be able to make all of them, but hopefully not a stranger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Ms. Grigsby. And thank you for inviting her up to speak after speaking with her yourself, Mr. Little. I have great interest in Ox Creek, being that I grew up playing in it, on it, the train and all. And I know that it's a very valuable piece of
Yeah.
with an immense amount of possibilities. I've asked a question and I haven't gotten an answer yet. Several months ago, I asked about the SRF funds. And had we applied, I know you're familiar with them.
I am familiar.
Okay,
Carrie's
and the
much
TIF
more.
you already mentioned.
Yeah.
I've been on calls and I was on a 6-hour session with various amounts of people from all over the country that are adding the funding that's coming down for a lot of these. And the TIF, there was grave mention about. See, the funding is coming, which is why we shouldn't have moved so fast at giving up $75,000. But we'll take care of that. I really appreciate you, and I have I've been working with an organization that has funding as well, and I was going to take it upon myself along with some board members of Project Need Foundation, because there seems to be a need that the community is not being made aware of as far as Ox Creek is concerned, to put some type of signage down there because it's contaminated and fish come out of there bigger than my hand and people are eating them and there's no type of warning. And I think that this body needs to do something about it like ASAP. I shouldn't have to spend they shouldn't have to spend a few little funds. They have to do so, but if they have to, I will see to it that they will. The gas company is partnering with, I forgot who it was, on the small end of Ox Creek, and they're cleaning now.
Yeah.
But that's as far as they're going, and it doesn't make sense. But I have a concern that was raised on a call this morning with our weekly updates on our lead project, but there happened to be people from the EPA, Eagle, as well as the health department. There was a sewer break And my concern was, how does that contamination, because the water flows and it carries and it's raw sewage. And if we don't put up some type of signage, I mean, granted, it may not get into the pipes that are being replaced, but our children play in these areas. And there should be some type of massive, press release or something for the parents to know, do not allow your children to go to such an area where this break is taking place. Because children don't know, we just like to play when we're young and free and want to stick our feet in water. And when contact of human, with human waste that belongs to everybody, I mean, we all have enough to deal with, monkeypox and COVID and God knows what else. But as it relates to that, we as a Brownfield Authority Board need to do something about the signage of Ox Creek. But I would be calling you, young lady.
That'd be great.
I
And,
would really like to work closely with you,
oh, I appreciate that.
our creek.
That would great. And Alex has really brought in
Oh, yeah.
huge force of people on the
Mhm.
water quality issue.
Yeah,
And that is huge.
yeah.
Usually, typically, and I'll let you go with this, Alex, but
Watch it.
usually the health department is in charge of the signage. And the state already has designated different tributaries and bodies of water
Yeah.
as not fishable, swimmable, that kind of thing. But I think with everything that Alex is doing, he's going to be clarifying and identifying specific problems that need to be addressed and getting the funding to do so, I believe. But that's really, I mean, that's important. And the E. coli alone is, yeah.
Just to finish,
Sure.
I still am looking and seeking for an answer about these, the SRF funds, because it has everything to do with not only our bodies of water, but lowering Benton Harbor city residents' water rates.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
all of our water on every level is just connected somehow when it comes to the lead, lakes, creeks, rivers, what have you. I mean, this is how involved I've been in research and working for years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
so I, yeah. So I've known you during the master plan, but I think that was your role was. Can you tell me what your role was?
My role with it began with the creek, you know, and with U of M needing some help with some of the visioning that they did at during the master planning process. So my role was that, as well as affiliated with the Brownfields along the creek. So working with Carrie Geyer at Eagle on those issues, what can be done, what, you know, where can it be done? And then, but we have been talking to Alex and Ellis about beginning this inventory so that Eagle can start pumping some money into the city to address some of these sites and taking it step by step. Other things we do is TAB, and we have a huge number of partners, consultants, engineers, architects, marketing experts, real estate folks. We can also do visioning on a brownfield site. What should it be? What does the community want? But we can also get market studies done on individual sites if you need something like that. We can do the renderings for development. So there's so many things we do. We have so many partners, but our role was we stepped in on behalf of what Eagle requested, that we work with University of Michigan on the visioning piece for Ox Creek.
Also, do you got any like paper for us to look at or anything?
I wasn't prepared. I didn't know you were having the meeting, or I would have been bringing more information, but If I have email addresses, I can give everything. What I can do is give it to Mark, and Mark can disperse things. So you want more information about the program itself? Oh, definitely.
Thank you for your remembrance.
And if I could, I wanted to just mention in response to the one point that you made, part of what we're doing right now, we're discussing and trying to identify and input funding specifically to test all of the types of contaminants, water, the sediment beneath the water, the land along the banks of it and everything. So we want to know everything there is to know about what kind of problems and contaminants and what we need to do to address that in order to clean it up as part of the total effort that we do. And I don't want to run over and just, because we weren't on your agenda, so I don't want to take you extra time. Thank you very much.
Briefly, Ms. Grigsby,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Quick question. I know you guys are working for free at Kansas. What's your funding source?
The EPA.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to compete and provide a proposal to them every 5 years. We're one of the universities selected in the country. We serve 4 different regions, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Okay. And briefly, the acronym SRF, and I
State
assume that's
revolving
state revenue.
funds, that is not really that's not
No,
my
could you
area,
repeat the
but
acronym? What is the
state revolving fund.
It's revolving, okay.
Yeah.
Now, so if I'm understanding you, what you would like to do is come into the city of Benton Harbor at no charge to this Brownfield or the city. Seek the funding to do a complete inventory on all property that is contaminated and the prescription for clearing them up.
Right, but it's a step, we don't do phase 1s and phase 2s, we
What
don't
is
do that, we don't do remediation. But we also assist communities like yourself with your EPA Brownfields grants if you go for a national grant. We also work closely with Eagle, identifying areas of maybe there's gaps, things that we could problem solve.
Mhm.
That's what we do.
So right now, if it was funded, your organization could provide an overall assessment of the brownfield inventory at this point.
We can do the inventory right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be added to what the city had, so we'd be able to put
Absolutely.
everything
It would
together.
be update what you have, because things have changed so much the last couple of years everywhere.
Well, it seems like a no-brainer. I don't know what there is to discuss. How can that hurt us?
I don't think.
It can't hurt in any way. I just wanted to
Oh, okay.
take the
Yeah,
opportunity
yeah. No
to
problem.
introduce
No problem.
you both to each other.
Madam Chair.
And thanks very much, Mike. I appreciate it. Sorry.
Last thing about the signage, I think that there are 3, before we start getting into signing, federal, state, county, and city are probably priority entities. If we start putting up signs, especially on property that we do not specifically own or have an interest, I think there's a whole lot of people that would be responsible. I take it up with the city commission. And you probably-
Intend to,
It's really a health department issue.
All right.
exactly.
So I don't see how we can go and put up signs.
Yes, sir, you still got the floor.
I'm finished. That was it for me.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
you.
This question is posed to Alex. Ox Creek, what is the source? Where does Ox Creek begin? What is the feeding streams or whatever that causes Ox Creek to flow? And where does Ox Creek flow into?
It begins with about 16 square miles of farmland in Marion County, out in that, mostly in Benton Township. But it also actually, some of it comes out of a couple of other Benton townships. It flows into Ox Creek through part of what I believe the Drain Commission calls I get the name of it out there, just on the other side of the highway. It comes down through here. In the past, we picked up contamination from major parking lots, like the mall where gas and oil and so forth runs on it. Some from like Myers and other places out there where you got hard surfaces. Some of the service stations like up there in the vicinity of Pipestone and 139, and runs down through the city. There was a major contamination problem from harbor plating at one point that was using various chemicals that got into the surface water and the sediment and so forth. But it flows right through Benton Township, comes, follows pretty much the path of the railroad right-of-way that was purchased some years ago, from right in front of Home Depot, down under Napier, right between the cemetery and where the place that had the monuments were there, comes all around on the M139, then crosses where you go down the dip there at Empire Avenue where the little cab stand used to be, and runs right on down past Valley Drive and all the area behind the school off Britain, comes right on down through here. It's negatively impacted Old Park, by eating up a lot of the property there. But then it runs right on through, circles behind the company right across the street here, and then runs right past Modern Plastics, which is another major potential contaminant site. And then past New Products, runs on down, dumps into the Pawpaw River, and then the Pawpaw River into St. Joe, and St. Joe right out into English.
Just a moment, please. I think we're getting off track with the agenda. He has to make his report. These questions, you can still ask these questions.
Yeah.
But let him make his report because we're getting off the agenda. Now, if it's something, and he's gonna talk, and then you can ask those same
I
questions.
want to know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you can still ask those questions, but it might be in the report he's getting ready to make. It
I
says-
doubt if this is, because I'd like to know, I heard the young lady mention some things that I thought was Mark's responsibility.
Well,
And if in fact we needed somebody with such services, do we not put out an RFP?
you can ask him.
He can answer that when he,
Yeah, when he comes. Let's kind of stay with the agenda so we won't be off track here. Mr.
just
Little,
making sure we're doing
Mark,
things in order.
yes, it's, committee reports, Ox Creek, Alex Flutter, but he's put her up. So now we know who you are, and thank you so much for your report. But Alex, it's time.
Well, I'll just explain a little bit on it. We are moving ahead full scale on trying to implement the revitalization box Creek. I think a lot of people are seeing what's being done on the one block section between Highland and Main by Michigan Gas. Is getting an idea of what that creek could look like. It could be improved and become a thing of beauty here in this community. Beth, Emily, the director, Region 5 Director of EPA, was up here a few weeks ago and toured Ox Creek, along with Emily, who is one division there at Eagle. And we've got quite a momentum going. What we've done now is resorted to outlining on a Gantt chart the time frame between now to the end of 2026, and starting to build on this chart all the different components that have to be done in order to complete the total project on Ox Creek. We know it's going to take a significant number of different funding sources in order to get it done. And while we don't control the time frame on whether or not we're successful in getting them, it will allow us to, as we are successful with different components, get those moving at this all at the same time to try to get as much of this total project done as we can by the end of 2026. Normally, this is a project that takes years and years and years. But we want to take advantage of the fact that the money is out there now and it's available. Number of different sources, number of different time frames. We want to optimize and get what we can and do what we can. We want to improve Old Park and first phase, which is from Highland up to Britain. First, second phase from Britain up to Empire Avenue, then Empire to M139, and then 139 out to almost Home Depot. And again, just to briefly state, the vision is clean it up, dredge it out, get it improved and clean up the whole valley through there eventually, so we can start redeveloping with houses, with commercial activity, and whatever else that helps to build our tax base, improving the recreational value in terms of being able to have canoes and kayaks and so forth, and kids be able to play in that creek safely again because the contaminants hopefully will be gone. Also, the construction of the bike path boardwalk, that's to run the entire length of the creek all the way out to practically Home Depot, back to downtown here, where it can join up and people can come over and even tie into the trail that Harbor Shores has. But by doing this, we think that we will greatly enhance the value of our city and the opportunities by for people to build, advance. There are a lot of private property owners on the right side, the west side of this creek. Once you get on the other side of Britain Avenue, and you go from Britain up to M139, a lot of those homes that sitting on that hill, their property runs all the way down the hill to the creek. And if this is all beautified, cleaned up and so forth, that property suddenly has value. People can build on it themselves, they might lease it, they might sell it, whatever, but it can become a part of that overall development that can help to provide jobs, provide tax base, and beautify the city. And Beth, along with, we've got dozens of people from DNR, MDOT, all the state agencies, number of federal agencies. As a matter of fact, Army Corps of Engineers is working on something for us to help provide funding to address the issue of flooding and so forth that's going on. NOAA is becoming involved in it. We've got some of everybody, all hands on deck to get this project done. And we're going to be, from the city standpoint, working and asking Mark to work with us and get a little bit more involved, not only your dime, but we will find the source to pay to try and have Mark assist us with coordinating some of this, because it's getting big. It's getting very big. And then at the same time, I've got that going. Of course, I've got Project T going up here, corner of Wall Street going over here, and a number of other things going on. And so, but it's moving, and we're very pleased with the progress. And none of what we're doing, I heard the question asked, and when you said you thought it was Mark, what we're doing here will all come right back here to you, because the actual work, once these sites are identified and whatnot, when it comes to that, will come through mostly through the Brownfield Authority here.
Thank you. Ms. Child, you have your hand up. Raise your hand up. You want to ask questions?
I ain't got my hand
You finished with your question? You want
up.
to
You told me to stop, so I'm through with that.
You ain't got nothing else to ask?
I got some.
Well, ask it. Ask it.
Yeah, so after the completion of this project is the homes and the total development, what monetary value will the city benefit from it?
The taxes that would be produced as a result of the development would benefit the city. The increase in population from people who might live in those homes and so forth. I fully expect that a beautified valley down there will also positively impact the top of the bluffs on both sides. I think the property up there will become twice as valuable as it is presently for the people who own it and live in there and so forth. And I would not be at all surprised to see a lot of new housing on the bluffs on both sides of that, when they can look down and see a well-maintained, beautified area below. It's the reason people build houses on golf courses, on lakes and so forth.
So the reality is, it's not gonna be low income.
Not specifically targeted for low income, gotta be honest about it. It's not the intent.
Yeah.
No, that's not the intent.
Finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
My question was, what I know of Mark doing in times past when it came to grants and things that came up in dealing with the state, Eagle or EPA. And it was some things that the young lady had mentioned, and I'm like, I'm not trying to put you to work, no, I'm just trying to retire. But I'm just saying, I thought that a portion of that was your responsibility being our consultant at keeping us up to date when funding was available that we may apply for, and you being a grant writer, or I don't know if it was a team of you all, or what part you would play in all of this other than just consulting.
Madam Chair and members, I think it's imperative that this authority have a seat at that table, the Ox Creek table. I think you've already paid your ante, $75,000, and perhaps that time is coming soon where we will be at the table. But be reminded, and I think I'm saying this primarily for the benefit of Ms. Grigsby, because she doesn't know, but this authority's been in existence since 1996, and it has sought and been awarded and utilized EPA assessment grant funds, MDEQ Eagle assessment grant funds, before the likes of Carrie Geyer ever even transferred into the Brownfield program when she was just getting started. We have an inventory of sites presently that probably exceeds 400 parcels. We have 40 different brownfield plans that are sites rather that are in play right now that we're capturing taxes on. It's great to have a second look and another set of eyes, particularly when that second set of eyes is free and of no cost to this body. All for it. But I'm also one that hates to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
So when I say a seat at the table, it's to say that, we have some of those data available already,
Thank you.
and here's where you can find it.
Thank you.
So that we're not starting from scratch.
I mean, and I appreciate that, because I'm tired of feeling like a hamster on a wheel for the past 22 years. And things that are already readily available, just like some of the contaminants down there. There's some specs somewhere that we have.
And
Yeah.
we, for example, utilizing one of those Eagle grants many years ago, did an assessment along Ox Creek, which led to the eye-opening of the state and EPA on a lot of the harbor metal treating issues that ultimately got resolved. So you were ahead of the curve in many respects, and we'd like to remain part of it and lend our support however we can, because it's a phenomenal project, and I think it has a great potential for the city of Benton Harbor from a tax standpoint. Those are my comments.
I only have one other question, and I always look out for my youth in the community as to any type of training of any sort that may come available for them to learn anything about this type of work, any of their involvement. They shouldn't have to wait until they get to a college or a university to learn about what affects them where they play and live. I mean, somebody is going to have to take over all of our jobs, and it might as well be somebody that we're trying to teach early on.
Commissioner?
That's it.
All right, thank you. On this end, I couldn't see any.
Mark
hands.
trying to answer me, Madam Chair.
One last comment, because the question of signage had been raised and whose responsibility that might be. It's not this authority's responsibility. However, if you like, I'd be happy to reach out to the health department and find out what the status might be. if this has a health issue associated with it, it should be posted.
Mhm.
I'll tell you from my experience, however, as moronic as this may sound, there's a double edge to the posting of it. And the double edge is that all of a sudden, it becomes a negative instead of a positive, if you understand what I mean.
Okay,
Right now, we're
okay,
looking at the
okay.
positives of the redevelopment of Ox Creek. And you have to be sensitive to the impact putting
We
such
do,
signage
but-
could
but
have.
do we put people health
Understood. Your
in
point is,
danger and not forewarning them and waiting till something happens and then,
I'll make the inquiry.
yeah, appreciate it.
Thank
They
you, Madam
already
Chair.
know, but yeah, you pick it up.
That seems
Wait,
to
I
be
see,
censorship.
Mr. Hudson?
We don't own that property.
We're not trying to,
The city.
we're not trying to, we took care of it.
Mr. Hudson?
Nope.
Okay.
I should mention, the more recent testing on the water itself is that there's not a serious problem at present. But the potential is there once you start digging and whatnot and so forth. But there, as late as last week, I was contacted by the Kalamazoo office of Eagle, where they're coming in to sample some wells and so forth. And I gave them access to our right of way and so forth there to be able to do that.
I'm gonna leave this alone after this
Mr.
statement.
Hudson had a valid
No,
point.
no,
He had a valid point.
After I make this statement, because I'm just curious and a very inquisitive person. And love to know what's going on in my community, especially since they have awarded me as a gatekeeper. I stopped and I talked to the people down here doing the work. And the young man that I spoke to, the project manager, he was very informed of what's going on. And it was he that stated they shouldn't even be eating fish. So I'm just saying, we just need to do our due diligence for our residents, that's all.
On this topic.
Good, yes. So, can you tell me, is Hug Park part of the creek?
Whole Park,
Yeah, Hug Park.
our creek flows through it.
Like
yes.
behind?
On the other side.
Along the base of the hill.
Yeah, that's all.
Now, somebody else have their hand up? No, all right, next. Thank you, Mr. Little, appreciate
Very
it,
welcome.
and so to you, Ms. Dixon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, G, treasurer report.
Madam Chair and members, Treasurer's Report, attached to pages 4 through 11 of your packets are the June revised financial statements and the July financial reports from Plant Moran. And I'd like to direct you, please, to page 10 of your packet. That includes the July balance sheet. The top, page 10. At the top, you'll see that you have cash in the bank of a little over $881,000. It's the highlight of that particular page. If you flip to the next page, page 11, you'll have your July financial statements. Now, because July is the first month in your fiscal year, you have very little income, and you have a fair amount of expenses because you wrote that check last month for $75,000. So at this particular point in time, you're running in a deficit, but that will correct itself as you move forward.
Question. If we approve this funding, and actually I thought it was 75, but anyway,
Let's get a motion,
if we approve this,
just a moment, get a motion,
and then okay,
and because you can only ask questions based upon the motion, it won't be all over the place.
okay.
So we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I need a second. Okay, now, Commissioner.
Upon our approval of this project for Ox Creek and the funding that we initiated to it, we don't determine how they get it, we just gave it.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Madam
I
Chair,
just only asked that question because I had a question about payables that wasn't the amount that we dispersed. And it has been dispersed already. We signed the check.
Madam Chair and members, you authorized $75,000 contribution in effect. It could be used by the city to pay Act 381 eligible expenses associated with Ox Creek, which is going to be the lion's share of the University of Michigan work that's being done. It's up to the city to review those invoices coming from Michigan because we don't have any contract with Michigan.
And that was my initial question, on the other end, before I brought it back to this board, was I'd like to see the work that they're coming up with. I have big interest in Ox Creek. I would really love to see, the work as it's completed. Because I was under the impression, from the question I asked Mr. Little, that it was completed, to find out that it really wasn't.
Can you go to the city and get that information from the
No,
city?
I'm asking our consultant because he gets that too, though, you're not Mark.
Why would you go to the city?
Can I finish? I'm asking.
Just a moment. Yeah.
If you, on page 2, you'll see in last month's minutes, you asked that question. And Mr. Little told Commissioner Member Adams that invoices associated with the authority $75,000 involvement will be shared.
Okay,
We haven't seen any of those invoices, but it's only been a month.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions concerning the, June revised financial report?
Question?
All right. We are not, roll call.
Kennard,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Hull,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Payable listing.
Oh, you can vote? It doesn't matter, it passed, and that's cool.
Hudson,
Yes.
thank you, sir. My apologies.
Not leave him out.
Yes. You got that right.
He is a vote
Snuck in on me.
member.
All right, we have a payables listing. It's on page 12. You have July advisory services. You have your compiled financial statements from Plant Moran, and you have 2 outstanding checks to a developer called Victoria Ventures for the summer and winter 2001 tax payments totaling $2,717.55. We are reissuing these checks because they had yet to cash them when we closed out our account with Huntington. So we closed them, we canceled those checks, we're reissuing new ones. So the payables listing before you has a total on it today for your approval of $4,704.88.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Questions?
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Ms. Hubs.
I'll make it.
Ah, I
Approve.
didn't make.
Motion to approve.
Yeah.
Okay, he second. Okay. Questions?
This just sounds familiar. I'm trying to remember the project. It was down here in the Arts District.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Benton Hotel.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Just making sure I'm not getting old
Any
as
other
I.
questions?
Just curious, since we already would have approved this, why do we have to do it again?
Madam Chair, Ms. Warren, I believe that
Kind of like bounce.
several meetings back, you had suggested that whenever we're issuing a check, we include it on the payables listings so that you would know when you're signing it that you were approved.
Anything else?
Ma'am.
Anything else? Any other questions, concerns, discussions? Hearing none, roll call.
Hudson,
Yes.
Childs,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Kennard,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Hull.
Yes.
Madam Chair, motion carried. Last item under your treasurer's report is your proposed 2022-23 budget. Members, you'll recall at the last meeting, you were presented with a copy of this, and because it did not warrant immediate action, you decided you'd like to just think on it a little while. So I'm bringing this very same document before you at this time. There have been no changes made to it.
Oh, because I want to get you some seminars,
Okay,
education.
motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Now, are there any questions, any other discussions, concerns on the, item proposed of 2022-23 budget? Hearing none. Roll call.
Giles,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Kennard,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Old business,
Madam Chair, we have no old business today.
new business,
Madam Chair, members, new business. You'll recall that for the past couple of years now, I've been mentioning that we've been capturing tax increment revenues on the Market Street redevelopment, the residential housing development down along Market Street. We've been capturing those dollars and holding those dollars, anticipating that we would be presented at some point with invoices or documentation of invoice payments from either the City of Benton Harbor or Cornerstone Alliance. We've gone to the city on multiple occasions, and we've gone to Cornerstone on multiple occasions. And until recently, we have received nothing. Recently, as in 2 weeks ago, I received documentation from Cornerstone Alliance, finally, of their payment of about $123,654 worth of eligible expenses associated with that development. The documentation is included within your packets. It's on pages 17 through 28. You will see in those documents that they paid for excavation and disposal and backfilling of contaminated soil. That's the lion's share of these costs, about almost $113,000. And then they also paid for a little over $10,800 worth of sampling, environmental planning, and environmental reporting that was done on that project. The copies of the invoices that represent those charges are attached in your packet, as are certifications of payments that have been received from those two vendors, L.E. Barber and Villa Environmental Consulting. So and lastly, you'll see check registers that were printed from Cornerstone that also tie everything together. So, Madam Chair and members, what we're looking for here today, well, two things we're trying to accomplish is, number one, alert you to the fact that we've received invoices. Number two, we've reviewed those invoices and we find them to be Act 381 eligible, meaning they can be reimbursed using the funds that you have set aside. And thirdly, we're seeking your approval to do so if that's your wish here today. You can take those things, Madam Chair, in any fashion you want. You can carve it up. You can say we approve, but we're not going to pay for it, whatever you want to do.
I actually requested the documentation because I do know that in times past, we've discussed the amount of years that we paid reimbursements back. And that's the documentation that I was requesting.
so we do have the documentation, we have everything in order, we'll put them together and go from, so we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve what? Are we approving?
All three of them.
I make the motion to be combined.
That what be combined?
Tell them.
I'm trying to understand.
We're looking for affirmation that you accept our review of the Act 381 eligible expenses and that you are authorizing us to release payment for those expenses.
Based upon the
Okay.
fact you have the documentation.
Correct.
Okay, I'd like to revise, that, motion because I'd like to break those payments up.
We haven't had the motion yet, I
Oh,
don't believe.
okay, okay, that's when I can request that.
Break the payments up, for what, do we have the money available to do
We have money for a whole lot of them.
at this moment?
Madam Chair, I'm not certain at this moment that we have all $127,000 of $123,000 available. That is something that I will have to verify.
We need to break
Just
it
a
up.
moment. I thought you said that money was set aside for that particular.
Yes, ma'am.
And so if we don't have that money and it was set aside, what happened to it?
No, the money that we've captured has been set aside. Sitting here at this moment, I can't tell you whether it's 123,000 something or whether it's 120,000 something. So I can't say whether we've got in that set aside all of it.
So my question to Mark, Madam Chair, is that I heard Mark mention something, and I thought that the monies that we were holding and capturing was actually Fidelity Building and some other as well. And this may have been the other.
Madam Chair, at one time, we were holding money on the
Okay,
Fidelity
okay.
Building, but the city provided us
Okay,
with documentation,
and
and
that's done.
we've taken care of that.
Okay.
So if you go back and check, if it's 120, 110, 105, you will only, you'll wait till you get the rest of it, or you'll pay them in sections?
Well, what I would suggest is that if it's, let's just say it's only 100,
Yeah.
Okay.
we would release the 100 today. And then we would continue to capture, and when we get the little bit, like we do every other developer,
Absolutely.
then we pay them off.
So,
However, Madam Chair, because I don't have any authorization here today, I don't have any checks available today. So I would have to wait till next month to get your signature on a check anyway.
they waited this long.
This over. They wait this long, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay,
A month won't.
so you want to bring it back?
I guess what I would be looking for is approval of the invoices today.
Make a motion to approve.
Need a second?
Well, actually.
Oh, that's right, you did the
Edwards
motion. Yeah.
I did a motion to,
Yeah,
Support
yes. Motion and support.
by
Now.
Miguel,
All we-
supported by Miguel. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
You support.
I thought I heard it.
You support.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Commissioner Adams supported. Commissioner
Got it.
Edwards made the motion. And now, are there any more discussions, questions, concerns? Everybody get understand?
You'll bring,
All right.
This
Mr. Hudson?
100,000+ that you say we are holding, I noticed that we have a fund balance system here. I don't see anything in the assets. So if this is commingled with our 881,
This is commingled with, Madam Chair, this is commingled with your,
page 10,
this would be commingled with your checking and savings account. We did not put it in your money market account. Money market is only your local remediation revolving fund dollars.
okay? But I guess I'm having a little bit of a problem with that, which is, just a matter of accounting.
I want to see.
If we are holding funds, they are not, they don't have the same characteristics as the rest of the funds in that savings account. We should have another account here, 3 or 4, 3 point, however you want to put it, and it should indicate that fund balance. It just as a matter of clarification, because when you look at this, it doesn't show that. I was just wondering where it was.
I think that's something that confused me a long time ago. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. That's only coming.
All right.
So in the future, I think we should set up,
Break it down.
boom, this money should be here.
Mark, you want?
Madam Chair, I think that's a great suggestion. I'd be happy to do that. This is the only fund, this is the only developer that I'm aware of that I can recall at this moment that we are holding any funds for. So I can create that account, it'll appear on your next statement, and then it'll probably start showing zeros after that.
Great. Or you can delete it, bring it back when you need it. I mean, there are a million accounts, you can take the ones you need.
Just want, Mr. Hudson said.
Yeah, so that's all I have. I just didn't see
I
it.
just could have sworn that all of it is $2. to
Are you
pay
saying create a new account, or you're just gonna put
Phone.
a notation?
a line item?
Exactly.
A notation, correct, not a new bank account?
Right.
No,
Madam
you will
Chair,
simply create a current asset
Line
fund
item.
and then a corresponding,
I think that's.
okay, under liability.
Like a line item.
Wait a minute,
Yes.
are you finished?
Yeah, that's it. He knows what I'm talking
Now,
about.
Mark,
That'd be fine.
yes, ma'am. I do understand what both parties are talking about.
Yes.
We're not creating a new checking account. We're going to create a line item within the checking account.
well, both, yeah, but she has the right to ask that question to get
Oh,
understanding.
that's a very good question.
Real valid.
Balance sheet.
All right, now, anything? No, anybody else have any questions? Mark?
All right. Warren,
Yes.
Edwards,
yes,
Kennard,
Yes.
Adams,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes,
Hudson,
Yes. with the
Childs.
agreement, we're going to start letting that piece of information show.
Yeah.
That's 12% of your monies that are encumbered.
Yes,
It doesn't show in these states.
Yes.
Separate line item.
Madam Chair, motion carries. Madam Chair, I'd also like to add, if you wouldn't mind, when you look at page 17 of your packets, which is the memo or the letter rather that describes the valuation of invoices, you're going to see a big number on there, $12,499,000. That's the allowable maximum. And I'm pointing this out primarily for the benefit of the commissioners that are in the room, because if the city ever does find any invoices, there will be plenty of money available to potentially reimburse them,
Back up.
okay?
Hold on. Please explain.
All right, we are authorized under your Brownfield plan, Brownfield plan that was approved by the state, to capture up to $12.5 million in tax increment revenues, and to disperse those out to whomever incurred the eligible expenses. Right now, today, you just dispersed out 123,000 roughly, which means you still have $12 million potentially in the event that the city does find any invoices. Someday you might be able to reimburse. You don't have the 12 million sitting in your bank account, obviously, but you could continue to capture up to that point, or 30 years, whichever comes first.
And
Thank you, Madam Chair.
this amount has nothing to do with funding that, this is just basically what we can capture as a authority. This has nothing to do with grant dollars that we go out and seek or what have you for developments that we want to take an endeavor in on redevelopment.
That's correct. It's only the amount you have the potential to capture.
investments.
The amount you have the potential to capture
As an authority.
if they do the investment.
So what happens if we reach that mark? What happens when we reach that? Does the board dissolve? What?
That plan dissolves.
Okay,
The Market
the
Street
plan
component of
itself.
your plan goes away.
Okay.
Move to adjourn?
Support.
Just a moment.
Okay.
Just a moment.
Um,
Members, comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. I was glad to hear that we now have 9 members on the board. Because Commissioner Adams has been leading with various people to become members. She is the main reason why I sit on this board.
That's great.
And she approached me. So I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Thank you, that's very good. All right, thank you. No, it's your, members' comments, you got comments?
Oh. On the Michael Davis case,
Yes.
so can you tell us a little bit more about, like, you say the state city?
Yes, Madam Chair, with your permission, I did ask the city clerk for a copy of his application because I wasn't sure who he was either. He is a young man. I don't know if he resides in the city. I presume he does because I think that is a requirement under the city's application process.
Is it?
But he works for,
yes.
he works for Cornerstone Alliance. I'm not sure in what capacity. I think he assists in obviously the economic development arena.
I know Michael now.
So everybody, our bylaws said everybody on this board
Yes.
must live in the city of Benton Harbor. I don't think so.
Our, Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, our bylaws don't require it, but I think the
The
city's,
city puts some bylaws.
City,
the city's
Okay, they
process.
made bylaws.
yes.
Okay.
So it'd be easy to just hand it over.
Well, there's some people
They
live in
did
town.
anyway, but they're gonna have to
They
wait.
have business in the
They're gonna have to
city,
wait a little longer.
but they have business in the city. Go ahead.
My question would be, And that's something we need to fix on the other end with council rules and everything, but there's been applications sitting in the drawer. We had a gentleman in here that had a application in way long ago, a young person, that I've been trying to get some of the youth that are older and graduated involved in their government and finding out how it works. And this young man, he comes every now and then, even still, that his application in the drawer has been looked over. Because the mayor, the mayor has been utilizing, I actually say abusing his power and authority to choose whom he shall, and it's just not fair.
We can't do anything about it.
Okay, I'm just, this is my comments. These are my
Comments should be
comments. I'm not
relevant.
asking you to do anything about it.
Comments should
Now,
be
I'm making-
relevant.
Absolutely.
Mine are.
That's not, we
Mine
can't
are.
do
You worry
anything
about your
that.
relevant
Yes,
ones.
ma'am.
We can't do
I'm
anything
done,
about
Madam
that.
Chair. Thank you.
We,
Jesus
motions,
Christ.
we need any other comments, commissioners?
Just like to say, thanks for all the board for chipping in on the Ox Creek project. And the reason why I say thank you, since I moved, actually, that's the only reason I'm still living in Ben Harbor, is the whole apartment, Ox Creek. So thank you.
Okay, anything else? Anybody else?
Motion to adjourn.
We need a motion to adjourn. And second, motion to, thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a young man's name. Did you know? Jamariel, Eddie. Wow.
All that stuff should be done
Wow.
at city level.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. No, it's actually an authority.
Yeah, we don't have anything.
Okay, but then it didn't even concern you.
But I'm saying, you need to
I
bring
have
up
to make a
comments that are
statement of
relevant.
whatever I choose. All right.
I'll see you all later.
Oh, no, we need to fix that with the council. I know where. Okay, this authority is sitting on.
And we will take care of
So now
that.
you can, now
I don't
you
wanna talk
know
about
what
anything I
attention
can't
it
do anything
is.
about.
You heard it here first. Well, no, he has a body. He has a body. Well, he actually removed me from the, as chair.
Thank you.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, too powerful.
Oh, you-